Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Careers Talk. My name is Suren Sharma and I'm an Agile consultant based in Netherlands. And at Careers Talk, we invite industry experts from around the world to share their real experience with all of us. And today we are going to discuss some of the toughest project manager interview questions that only those who have actually faced these scenarios can answer. And I'm also thankful to a member of our USA WhatsApp group community who recently attended an interview at TCS in Austin, Texas, United States, and shared these questions with us. And to help us, we are glad and fortunate to have Shiva Kumar with us. He has over 25 years of IT experience and is currently working at Oracle India as a director of manufacturing applications. He also serves as a board of member at PMI Pearl City, Hyderabad. But friends, before we start, to avoid missing out any future sessions, please subscribe to our channel. And if you find this content valuable, which I'm sure you will, please smash that like button and share your thoughts in the comment section. All right, let's get started. Hello, Shiva. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Shiva, over to you.
Yeah, hi all. Hi Sunan. Thanks for inviting me for this interview. I'm delighted that I'm part of your overall journey. That at least whatever knowledge I have, I can share it with your channel subscribers and make them successful in their careers. Thank you.
Wonderful, Shiva. So before we start, why don't you tell us about yourself in a brief? You have a vast experience. So what exactly you are doing right now? What excites you more? So yeah, Shiva.
Fine. Yeah, you gave a brief introduction already. Yeah, I'm working in Oracle as a director of manufacturing applications, and my passion is about getting into project management related topics as well as artificial intelligence. I also work with CII on IIMs to on the AI as well as supply chain related projects. So that's a brief about me. We can get into the
Wonderful.
interview.
Thank you. Wonderful, Shiva. Thank you. Okay, so let's start then. So here comes the very first question. And the question is, let's say a company has to choose between two projects. So let's say name them alpha and beta. So we have a project alpha and which is expected to make, let's say, 50 million profit, while the project beta is expected to make 45 million. Now the financial controller has said that the company can only invest in one project. So if the company choose project alpha or project beta, so what is the opportunity cost? So can you tell us like how to go about this calculating opportunity cost, and what's the
Okay.
significance or what is the use of this opportunity cost? Yeah.
Fine. So usually the opportunity cost is something not related to two projects, but it is something related to a particular project in the sense, okay, you told about alpha and beta, say 45 and 50 million is the impact. So in that case, if I'm choosing, say, alpha, which is 50 million, and beta, which is like 45 million, I think you told, if I'm going to choose A and then not choosing B, then the opportunity cost of not choosing beta is 45 million. So it is standalone, it's not a comparison between A minus B. It's not like 5 million, but that's what people mistake usually, right? So it is the opportunity cost.
So it's a trick question.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Okay. So, but then what's the significance of this? Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so we have if you go into the portfolio management, it's not about managing one project, right? You have ample opportunities. You have like 15 projects in your basket, and then we have X amount of money in our hands. So which ones do we choose? And we may have to make a hard choice of which one we have to lose, right? Here, the comparison of alpha and beta, I choose alpha, but missing out on beta. But I can still do beta also by taking loans or going for somehow financing that, somehow resourcing that. That is what is we'll have to look at. It's not between two projects, at least I'm not going with B. So what am I missing out on that? I hope that answers.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Shiva, for that. Okay. So let's get into the next question. And the next question is, let's say you are having trouble breaking down the testing work into a detailed task because your testing plan can only be made after at least 50% of the system has been developed. And
Okay.
the system developed will take at least next 3 months to complete. So what is the best way to manage this situation?
Okay, so this is like, there is a dependency between the testing, preparing the testing related activities or planning, and you have an upstream activity that has to be completed 50%. That's what you're saying. But always we have in the past, like, at least a structure can be made. Whatever information we have, a structure can be made on the test related planning to a certain extent, right? And instead of waiting till 3 months, we can also follow a progressive elaboration path, in the sense, like, break down the testing work into smaller parts, and what information we have at this time, even it may be even assumptions, and, like, we start with that, and after a month we take the course correction to see, like, okay, we started with some assumptions, can we see what information we have, and then, like, slowly progress on. And at the end of 3 months you may already have something in place. So it's not like you're starting from scratch or zero. At least, like, you have something to start with. That is one strategy. Other is, like, the dependency mapping, and then you see what are the various integration points, right? See, project, or if you take a software project itself, it is not one software program or one module. Like, there are going to be a lot of interdependent modules. At least the unit specific information may be available, right? It is the interface points that maybe, like, it will crystallize over a period of time. So in that case, at least we can start with what is each sub team or each agile team, or even, like, if it is even in a waterfall, each module team can go and work with whatever they already have. And then, like, the integration points can be touch based in the future. And third point can be, like, the risk management and buffering. Like, overall, we know that there are some risks in assuming and then taking forward. How far can we go ahead with writing a plan based on the past, and then, like, change it over a period of time when we actually that 3 months when you reach, right, you get more crystallized thing. In my experience, what we have done is, whenever there is some not much clarity at the beginning of the project, we also do something called as the buddy engagement or buddy testing. That is, the testing team collaborates with development very, very early in the life cycle of the project. So here what happens is, like, they are working with development. Development keeps feeding the testing team with inputs about, like, hey, how it is going on. So they already have the information about what is happening. Even they can participate in the unit testing. Usually the QA or quality assurance testing comes down the lane, but they can start engaging at that level, so that, like, they can have a kickstart at that point itself. And to as a project itself, it may be broken down into multiple iterations, right? Instead of going like a big bang waterfall methodology, like, no, okay, only after 3 months you have to engage. If people can change the mindset and then see that, hey, why don't we have multiple iterations of a bigger waterfall project, right? How does it work? Does it really work? We need not go with weekly sprints, but some way in between, right? That can be tried out. And maybe, like, no, sometimes even making a prototype will help. Like, you don't need the application to be ready to go ahead and then do the test planning. But the product managers usually give a prototype, or even a very, very crude prototype, or screenshots. Actually, not even screenshot, the wireframes, like, how the application will look like. So these inputs may help for the testing team to have a better planning and start their activities soon. Last, I would say is, yeah, why don't we even go with, instead of only a 2 or 3 iterations, should we look at a totally agile methodology, so that, like, no, we give like small increments over every 2 weeks to 4 weeks sort of sprints. I think that may be the last approach on a longer duration project.
Wonderful, Shiva. Yeah, thank you for that. Great. Okay, so with this, let's move on to our next question. So let's say you are starting to plan a very large and a complex project,
Okay.
and because of its size and regulatory requirement, a detailed project plan is required, needed, right? So what you should do first? So if you can share with your experience, like how you are going to create a project plan from, I would say, from scratch, what are the do's, don'ts, and things like that, which it's up to you. Yeah, sure.
Fine, good. See, actually seeing like large for any project, there are like standard set of functional areas and process functions to be followed. But what I see is like you want to see the what is the first step or like one significant step when we have a large and complex project. I mean, it may be a project like, say, setting up a greenfield petrochemical complex, right? Or a new data center, right? Or even a defense project, a complete sourcing and creating a software for a big defense project. So here the identifying the stakeholders becomes one of the first and foremost criteria, because we will have a lot of unknowns. It's not only the a client and the one vendor with whom, like, no, these are not the stakeholders who are internal stakeholders. But if you think at such a large and complex project, there are a lot of stakeholders who are external, whom we don't even know. So I think that is the very, very important stuff. That too, with complex projects, what happens is like, we have the, say, power, right? You're setting up a data center. So do we have like power clearance? Do we have the land clearance for it? So such things comes into place. And even for a big software sort of projects, like defense projects, we mean like, there are a lot of ifs and buts, and there will be contract terms which are totally different from regular contract terms. So we may have to take clearances from a lot of other government entities. So all these will happen when we know who are our stakeholders. Once we know the stakeholders, then we get the requirements from them. Hey, what do I do? Like, no, okay, this is the clearance I want, or this is what is the sourcing methodology I should use. What are the requirements I need to gather that? And then we get into the scope or boundary, like, for each of these stakeholders, what inputs I'm getting. I'm now crystallizing sort of like, no, okay, this is my overall scope boundary of the project. I now understand what the project is, right? And the various, the overall, even the breakdown structure starts from there. Because it's a complex project, it's really a project. It's not an operation like, no, okay, you've done 10 projects and this 11th project similar, that's different. But standard unique projects have to go in this way. And even these, after we take the inputs from the stakeholders, they also influence how the prioritization of the activities will happen, because we don't know like, which activity is going to take time and more resources, because it's a unique, very, very unique sort of a project. So it all goes from the stakeholder, and then we saw the requirements, and then like, we set the boundaries and get into the work breakdown structure. So I'd say that is the first and foremost step, Sananda.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Shiva, for that. Wonderful. Let's move on. So the next question is, let's say you are tracking your project cost and you notice that your project expenses are higher than expected at that particular stage. So what is the most likely reason for these kind of differences?
Okay, project expenses shooting beyond what is budgeted. Yeah, we never see the same, right? Even in our personal planning also, you would observe like we may have some budget for some things, but then when
Correct.
even for
There
shop,
always a variance.
yeah, exactly, you go and say like, no, okay, I want to buy a pair of trousers and shirts, and we go with something in mind, and we come back with like, no, double the cost we would have incurred and then brought it. Many times it happens. So in a project, we can't afford like, no, double the time, but usual cause is there are so many, but then one of them will be the inaccurate cost estimates, right? People taking, maybe they're not very much expert in this, but then they've given a rough cut estimate just like that. We can see like, estimation itself is a big subject. Now, if you see, first is the rough order magnitude estimations. Usually, like, they are accurate by around 50%. That's all we can say, right? The next level of estimation when people do, after they get some more information, then like, no, it is like 20 to 50%. And even after detailed estimate analysis, people reach somewhere between 10 to 20% variation is allowed. Like that is what we can estimate, right? So with this, if somebody has just done rough order estimate and then they're given that and the project is taking that, the project is going to be off by around 50% on the budgeted cost. So definitely like no inaccurate estimation is one of the primary ones. Then we can say like no, okay, a person has done very good estimate, taken past project estimates and all, and then he's passing to this, he or she is passing to this. Still, if you see, even it may be a recent project, but then the project runs for 1 year. What changes in a year? Inflation, right? So people forget to add the inflation to that. So we'll have to see that, okay, even though we take from the past, what may be the changes, right? And even currency fluctuations will add another. For example, we have resources or even like royalty payments to somebody, some other company which is overseas, or we have resources which is in US or UK. Then we'll have to see that our estimation on INR and Indian rupees would not work because we'll have to take the US and GBP estimates and then have the currency fluctuations added as like no in the estimates. So that is one on directly like no we can talk about that. A third point can be usually the scope creep. People don't realize when scope creep really hits, right? At the start of the project, okay, it's going a very small amount of scope has been added without adding to the like no in the contract. So people say, okay, this is a small amount, okay, fine. And then slowly you see when you hit like 50% of the project, already 5 to 10% of the scope has been added without having any revenue implication for the project. So the cost will anyway, we will incur on that without adding any revenue. So scope creep is a slow poison, I would say, right? So people don't know that, oh, this much scope creep has occurred. That is after halfway through the ship sails in the middle of the ocean, we get to know like, no, oh, we don't have the fuel because like, no, we have already burnt a lot of fuel in the journey, right? And fourth can be unanticipated risks. We'll talk about risk a lot in project management, but many places like no, the risk management stops at talking and not implementing. So sometimes even anticipated risks are okay. Unanticipated risks, we'll have to buffer something based on past experience. Like no, if something happens, this is not an anticipated risk. Then like no, what percentage of the um, project can be kept for that? Interesting point would be like no the resource utilization. That too in a resource intensive projects. Again, take the software industry where the resources are the main costs, right? So I think in a few minutes back you talked about the test planning. Like no, okay, the test team can be engaged only 3 months later. But if they are deployed, say at the start of the project, what are they going to do? Right? If they don't have the development skill or any other skill, they are going to be idle in the project. So that is going to add to the cost. They are underutilized for that portion of the project, isn't it? At the same time, the same resources later in the project will be asked to work overnight, paying overtime to finish the project in a like a given time frame. So that is overutilization. There also we have like problem of like not deploying the resources at the right time. So that also will cause the cost to go up. And one area I see where like no the cost estimate or the costs go up, but it is good. So why is it good? Maybe like no people are put more at the initial day of the project and you're going to complete it faster. Like the schedule compression happens and there is a reward for earlier completion, right? Say if a 12-month project, the contract says that, hey, in 11 months, if you complete, then you have a reward of like say 5% or 3%, then it is worth it. You know, the expenses, though it is more, it is worth it. So that is where even if cost is more, we'll have to do the root cause analysis to see, hey, why the cost is more? Is it something which is good or most of the times it's bad? But some days like, no, we'll have to see that. So that is where the earned value management comes into play, where you can see Is it like, no, by period my costs are more, or the cost incurred is according to the project percentage completion? Then I'm okay, isn't it? So that is the my take on the overall, like, no, the cost overrun at any point in a project.
Wonderful, Shiva. Yeah. Really appreciate the way you are explaining all this stuff. So great. Okay. So let's move on. This is like a kind of scenario. So let's say you recently promoted one of your team member. Let's say call him Sam, and he's your top programmer. He's excellent. He's an excellent coder.
Okay.
Now you make him to lead the complete team. All your complete Scrum team. So now, though he's a excellent coder, his performance as a lead, as a team lead, is not meeting your expectations. So how we are going to manage these kind of situation?
Okay. This is a very classic example. This happens in every team or in every organization, right? See, an excellent individual contributor, and he or she does a great job as a coder. But then, are they ready to lead? Usually, what happens is, like, yeah, this person is top rated in my team. Let me make this person a manager to lead the team. First is that person may not even have the passion to grow as in the management chain. If the organization already has individual contributor growth path, and that person is having full passion on that, why don't we just leave that person to grow in that ladder, right? So first time managers fail because, I mean, their aspirations or their passion or their skills are not oriented towards, like, no, management. Then, like, no, it totally fails. But this is, we see, this is not something like, no, happening very rarely. And any individual contributor who usually spends a lot of time in coding analysis and all that stuff, I've seen, like, from the personal example, what they expect is they have the passion to spend like 18 hours a day or 12 hours a day on the a job. They expect all their team members also to do the same, right? So this is where the disconnect happens. Like, no, each team member has a different way of working, but the expectation setting is not right. So then the whole team loses the trust with the new leader or the new manager, and the team dynamics gets lost. So here, what I see is whenever uh, a great coder is being guided to become a manager, we have to give him ample space. First, set the expectation that this role doesn't mean bossing around. This doesn't mean extracting work, right? It is to get gel with the team and make the team work together to get the deliverable, right? I've seen, like, the first time managers, the way they speak to the team members also, like, they also feel like, hey, he was my peer and suddenly this person has become a manager, right? My manager. So he or she becomes a manager, and then even if they don't boss around also, the natural feeling, human tendency is that to feel that, hey, my peer, he or she was my peer since yesterday, until yesterday, and suddenly she's bossing over me. That at I mean, that happens even the person is not behaving. But in this case, what happens, like, no, the first time manager also adds the salt to the injury, right? It becomes a very difficult thing. So what the senior manager should do is to groom this person, set the expectation, saying, hey, you're going to lead this team, but then this is the expectation that it's a whole team should go together. So you're not here to boss around, but then guide them and slowly ensure that the team gels with that person and gains the trust. See, that is the first one. The team should gain the trust. It's a known thing that people don't leave their organization, but most of the people leave because of their managers. So because of this leader change, if people are leaving the team, it's going to be impacting the same person's career also. So that is where I see, like, no, this person has to be mentored first, set the expectation, and once the team gels well, then give complete control to him and then delegate. Don't look from thereafter. I think that will make them successful. And if that person finds very difficult to handle this, then give the option to go switch back to an individual career role and groom that person there. It's, see, manager role or individual career contributor role, there is nothing, like, no big deal. Like, there is a lot of scope. In fact, in the market, I would say the individual contributor coders, hardcore coders are valued more many times than just like the managers. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sure. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. And let's say you have taken over an ongoing project. Okay, you recently joined this project, and in your first week, you notice that the team members spend too much time responding to some unexpected stakeholder request, and that causing the delay. It's a bottleneck. So, what should you do first? What will be your first step?
Okay, so it looks like there is no proper communication plan, or there is a communication plan, but nobody is following it, right? So, what is the communication plan? Like, no, we know that a project is there, these are the stakeholders, and these stakeholders should be given information at a appropriate point in time, right? See, the CEO may be there, or there is a program management office who had to be given, or there are vendors, right? So each of the stakeholder has a different set of expectation on what communication they need to receive from the project, right? At the same time, the level of detail also varies. A senior executive may only want, see, exceptions-based management. Hey, give me that. If everything is okay, just say, okay, that's all. I don't need any breakups. If there are any major things that I need to look, then you send me the exceptions, then I'll take care. That sort of, some people say that. Don't even send me long reports. Just say if it is okay, not okay. Not okay means like, no, what is there? If there is action on me, I'll take. And there are people who is the first level manager, they need to know more so that they compare weekly comparisons and then see like, no, where it is going down. Like, we talked about costs, we talked about risks, so all these they have to take care at the ground level, so their communication should be different and more frequent. So these all go into the communication plan. So once a communication plan is set, then beyond that, if somebody is contacting the team member in ad hoc manner, then we'll have to ensure that the expectation with the stakeholders are set fine. Like, no, we can again recall that there is a communication plan and kindly follow that. If there is anything else, like, no, please contact this point of contact. Mostly it is the project manager or a project lead, and not disturb the whole team with ad hoc requests, because many times people spend a lot and then we finally they enter the time card. We can't say they were answering queries from 3 different people for 8 hours. That doesn't look good, right? That's not a productive time of the person who's working on the project. So I would say the stakeholder management is one, but then the communication plan is one. And there are various methods. Like, no, even the communication need not be always full. In the sense, a person asked for a report and then we send, right? You have your own Confluence pages or a wiki page for various purposes, and people enter details there. Or you have a system of entering the progress in an application, and anybody and everybody can generate a report on their own, so that we don't need to send anything also. It is a push system where nobody asks. You send the information on a automatic way. Even automatic emails also have come nowadays, right? So you don't need to even send the report. So that would reduce these ad hoc requests to the project team, I think. Right?
Yeah, great suggestion. Yeah, thank you, Shiva, for that. Okay, so let's move on. This one is yeah, little different. So let's say in a software development project, there is a contractor that was hired to deliver a set of features within a specified timeline. Now the
Okay.
contract include clause with respect to quality standards and a timely delivery.
Mhm.
And this particular contractor has failed to meet both.
Okay.
So what you are going to do in these kind of situation? You know that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think he has missed on both the important terms, right? Quality and time are two pillars. anyway, third pillar is their cost will take care. But quality and time, if it is affected, then the project is going to really fail miserably. So we'll have to go back and see whether this contractor, we'll have to first inform that, like, no, hey, your team is not, or your resources or the contractor resources or their delivery is not up to the mark, right? First thing is giving them an opportunity. First, they should know that they are not doing well. Then you see, like, no, give a chance to see that whether they are able to uh, make any changes after the feedback. And still, if it is not happening and we have to see that, I mean, it is affecting our delivery at all, then we'll have to see, is there a contract clause where they can be like terminated, or we can give this contract to somebody else? Because the contractual terms, we have to refer back to the contractual terms. That's just the project manager cannot decide like, no, okay, we'll go and replace this contractor, because the contract terms should have enough clarity about when we can terminate the contract, whether there is any notice period to be given to that contractor, right? So the notice period is one, but many times we say like, no, it is a curing period where we give them an opportunity to say like, no, okay, you please, this is not up to the standard. You'll have to come back, and then like, no, we give a time for you to change and give you a better delivery. So even after that, the contractor is not able to do, then we can proceed with terminating the contract. But terminating the contract is not the objective, isn't it? The main objective is to deliver the project.
Project.
So
Correct.
once we already know that this person is not doing good and we may terminate the contract, I would suggest like alternately we should start looking about the next contractor who can be engaged when this person is like the contract is closed, so that it can run parallel. Because after terminating the contract, if you are going to look, then we are going to lose time. So look for alternative contractors who can do the same job. And during the curing period, we can have the negotiations with the contractor, pricing and all. And still after the curing period, the first contractor is not doing and we have decided to terminate, then we can immediately award the contract to the second person. And if possible, there is an overlap of time between both the contractors. Somewhat a handshake can also happen, though the first contractor may not oblige so much because that contractor has to leave. But then like, no, some sort of an overlap will ensure that a proper handoff of things happens, so that the second contractor's resources need not like, no, relearn everything from the beginning. So that is very important, that contract terms should be in such a way that the first contractor doesn't sue the company for any major things. That's the last thing we want, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, sir, Shiva. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for explaining all these things in a step-by-step manner. Wonderful, Shiva. Okay. So let's move on. And the next question is, let's say you are leading a brainstorming session with your key stakeholders
Mhm.
to identify different project risks. And after listening to all these risks, you immediately assign your team members as a risk owner to create a response plans. So how you are going to manage all this risk planning correctly when you have so many risk owners or accountable people? Yeah.
Yeah, I find like, no, this is not the correct process, because identifying risk is the first step, and
Mhm.
assigning owners to the risk is not the immediate step next, right? There are a lot of steps in between, because once we identify the risks, then we get into assessing the risk, right? Whether we do quantitative analysis or a qualitative analysis to see whether like, no, these risks will happen, or like, no, what is the impact, what is the probability of the risks
So
happening.
this is again a tricky situation. If you have not worked, then you will be fall for it, right? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
definitely, because see, risk management is something I've seen like, no, people just copy paste from the previous projects and then they don't apply their mind. So we have to go through the risk management plan, like the entire 5-step process. And then like, no, once you do the qualitative and quantitative risk, then you give the priority for them. right? Based on the probability and impact, we know now that, okay, it is the probability of this happening is 90% and the impact is, say, 1 million. And just saying like, no, it's a big number. Or it is just 10K or 10,000. And the other one is the probability is 50%, but the impact is 1 million. So we can't go just by probability or just an impact. It's a matrix we'll have to make and then see like, no, hey, which ones we have to prioritize. Then based on the prioritized list of risks, we say that, okay, these 5 risks we'll have to really address. Now let us go and do the risk management, in the sense risk response plan. That is where we say that, okay, the risk response is this. Just before that also, we can assign to the owners to go back and then work on the risk response plan, then come back. Or even the risk response plan also, we can do it as a team. And then finally, hey, this is the plan, all is set. Now who's going to monitor these risks and take the action whenever the mitigation actions, whenever such and such risks appear to like no rise. So that is the point when the owners have to be assigned. I think like no assigning before dilutes it, because sometimes even without prioritizing, people may work on all the 10 risks, which is going to be an overhead rather than it helping, right? It might pull down the project resources and looking at 10 risks instead of the top 3 or 4. Right? That is the my take on this.
Wonderful, Shiva. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, with this, let's move on to our next question. And the next question is, let's say your project is going on, but your team keeps arguing about the milestones and then associated risk with them. And this is now an ongoing issue within your team. Your team is having a lot of conflict with respect to the progress. So how could you help to prevent these kind of issues in your team?
Okay. I think you told about 2 things. Like they are discussing about the milestones and risks. So here also, I see like no carry forward from the previous question that you asked, like no the risk. The risk management plan is already there, right? And we have a very concise list of the real prioritized risks, and we have the owners there. So if some of them are really raising, then yes, definitely somebody has to address that, so that like no the milestones are there, but then we already have a plan of how to address this. Okay, if risk management plan also is very vague and the milestones also is not clearly laid out, then I'm wondering like no how the project was really planned overall, because the milestones have to be clear. Okay, these are the milestones, and these are the, even sometimes like no the milestones can be sub milestones which are very clear, but the overall milestone is going to be saying like no, okay, this is construed as 30% completion of the project, right? So why there should be a conflict between the team members if this is laid out cast in stone at the beginning of the project? And the third point is about collaboration, right? We're talking about team, and this is not a group. A team means like everybody works toward the objective of the project. So we have a conflict here, and that too often occurring. Then somebody has to pitch in, like the a project manager or the scrum master has to see like, no, hey, there is no team dynamics. Why don't we pull everybody together? If there is no plan, like risk plan, or the milestones are not clearly laid out, can we rework them, right? Can we rework and then see that it is presented to the team, and then from there we can go forward. And many times we don't know, like, no, okay, risk management plan is there, milestones are there, everything is clear, but still conflict is there. So it may be something beyond what meets the eye, right? Maybe you told about Sam. Sam was promoted and the team is not happy with the way Sam was promoted. And that is why they just want to like, no, cause some confusion in the team. Possible. We'll have to see like, no, whether it is just project related or it is politics or anything else, like, no, so that doesn't meet the eye. So that is where the conflict resolution becomes important, because the project manager cannot just go behind quality, cost, and schedule, right? They have to see that the same journey continues. It's a long journey. Project is not just an operation which happens every day and then you close it. So the conflict resolution is one of the important tasks of the project manager, so that the ship carries on. To just summarize, I told have the formal project management methodology should be used. Like you have a risk management plan, you have milestones clear, you have a communication plan, everything is set, and still there will be clarity issues. Then the project manager has to address those, and if there are conflicts, then try to resolve it amicably and then go forward. That's my take.
Wonderful, Shiva. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. And the next question is, let's say a team recently adopted Agile, and during their daily Scrum calls, they express concerns about the task delays. And the Scrum Master or the lead worked with the product owner for clarity, and then told the team to fast track all the features. Now sprints are being completed, but with the fewer feature or a lower quality. So according to you, what should the this Scrum Master could have done differently? So what is your take on that?
Okay. So less number of features being pushed, or just features are being pushed with less quality. That is the complaint here. See, Agile, as it lays out, every sprint, there should be some minimum increment that is useful to the product, right? To the customer or the end user who is there. At least something which is going out, which should be useful. So there is no point in taking up more features in a particular sprint and delivering on less quality, because it is not going to be useful for that. We can just put a tick mark saying, okay, these features were in the backlog that we have finished in the sprint, and these are all going to be reworked in the next sprint. That is going to be causing the lesser delivery of further features down the line in the next sprint. Definitely next sprint or in the next couple of sprints, we have to rework these, right? So I would say, more than prioritizing on sending more features, the team and the scrum master as well as the product owner should be sensitized that, hey, we have to deliver value to the customer or the end users of the product, rather than sending more features in every sprint. Because this is where, if the objectives, or even if you say at a very lower level, no, in the appraisal, if it is going to be, product owner is going to be measured based on how many features are shipped, then that is going to be pushed down to the agile team. There's going to be a problem. No, it should be overall, yeah, it's the number of features and the quality, and the end user should, we are going to take feedback from the, at the end of each sprint, we are going to take feedback from the um, customers. Or if not, no, okay, after 3 sprints, we are going to take a high level of a review from the customers. That feedback should be taken as the appraisal point, so that the product owners don't push the features down the throat of the project team, right? So that is one. And maintaining quality. See, quality at the cost of, the more features at the cost of quality is not acceptable, because it is a costly mistake, right? We are just postponing the rework instead of making it good the first time. So that is one. And many times this happens in newly formed agile teams. Again, when the team is just formed, but they are not interacted with each other, it's a very new team. What happens? The velocity is going to be less. They are not in sync first. So as they get in sync, and they understand each other, they work as a real agile team. That is when we can push no more features to them, and they'll be able to manage. But from day one, sprint two, we are giving more features to the team. It's not going to work. So the overall product owner and the scrum master should ensure no, that the team is not overloaded, and their objective is not just delivering features but value. I hope that's
Excellent, Shiva.
that's it.
Yes, yes, wonderful. Okay, so with this, I think we came to our last question of the day. So,
Okay.
which is, I'm sure like a lot of people might have faced this. So, let's say you're one of your team deliver a feature to the customer, and at the end of each sprint, of course, you are sending the team invite, but then your customer is not available for the review, for the sprint review, and that cause delay and extra rework, because then he later on he maybe
Correct.
come and then he again gives you some input here and there. So your team is already fed up. So what should you do as a project manager in this kind of situation?
Fine, this happens. I mean, quite often it happens because we have to select the stakeholders correctly, right? If I mean, just in the previous question I was answering, right? The reviews may happen every sprint. We have a product review, right? So should a senior executive be present for those, or every 3 sprints or 4 sprints that person is available? That is fine, right? The every sprint completion can be done by a relatively junior person, not the senior executive. Here it boils down to the time a particular senior executive can give to these sprint reviews, right? So that is where the what I was suggesting is like, no, the decision maker has to decide whether like, no, it should be the senior executive or a middle level manager is fine for giving a go ahead for each sprint or not. That is one I would say, because many times a very senior executive may not, for that person, this small sprint review will be a very, very low priority item. That is why they are not able to provide time, right? If you're not able to provide time, then set the next level of person who will be able to decide, like not wait for them. And then that can carry over. And sometimes what happens, okay, you schedule the call only 2 days before the sprint review, then that also is not good. Like these are all um, already known milestones. So it can be scheduled earlier. And if the person is very senior, then it's okay to send a reminder 1 day before, so that like that person is aware that such things are there. If not, they can send somebody else. And always have a backup resource. Okay, this person is not coming often. We're not going to postpone the sprint review for that. We will have a backup resource who will fall in place when that person doesn't come. And only for critical features, the senior executives can be maybe like no invited. And another thing is like no, for every sprint, this is going to happen. If that person is not there, let us record it and send it for review and then wait for a day. That can be one, because now we are all like working across time zones, right? So the time zone may not work for everyone. So a part of stakeholders may not be able to attend all the calls. So record it, send it for review. Then the next day they can come back and then tell. Final thing is have an escalation mechanism in place, so that, okay, it is from the customer's place. We don't have a command over them. So at least if this person doesn't join uh, review after review, then like, is there an escalation mechanism in place that we can escalate to and then ask for somebody else to come? Because we can't just delay the project or the sprint because of one person's availability, right? I think it's a even stakeholders have a main thing in the team. They are also part of an extended team. It's almost like one single team, but a bigger team. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Shiva, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so I think with this we came to end of this session. We have lot of other questions still, but maybe we'll have covered them in our next session with you, Shiva. So thank you first of all, you Shiva, for that. And whoever is watching this session, our friends, our viewers who joined us today for this session, we hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you enjoyed the session, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we hope to see you in our next session very soon. Until then, take care. This is Sunil Sharma signing off. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Shiva, one more time.
Thank you. It was nice to be part of this. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiva.